crowdfunding at Seed&Spark. I will talk a bit about Seed&Spark in a minute, but has anyone here never heard of us before? No? Okay. Has anyone used Seed&Spark or crowdfunded in general? Yeah. Okay. Before I jump in, I should say that, I should introduce myself a little bit more. I've crowdfunded 4 times, twice on Kickstarter and twice on Seed&Spark. I switched platforms before I started working for the company, but I really loved everything that Seed&Spark stands for, so I joined the company before my last campaign, which was last year. I am very much a believer and doer of everything I'm going to talk about, and I will be using a lot of my own examples, my own campaigns, to kind of talk about some basic information. I should say, though, that crowdfunding in general is really hard, really, 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 really hard. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. So, if you just are using crowdfunding as a way to get money for one project, for one film project, I think you're really missing out on what it can be, because we at Seed&Spark believe, and I personally believe, that it can be a means to having a career, to building an audience that you take with you from project to project, and really allows you to have true independence. So that's really what this class is going to be about. It's really about building an audience. Raising the money is obviously important, but it's kind of secondary to really building an audience of people who will become your amplifiers throughout your career and hopefully help you grow and make more and more projects, which I've been able to do 4 times for 3 shorts and 2 features. And also, yes, this is a class about Seed&Spark. I work for Seed&Spark. I would love for you to walk away from here wanting to use Seed&Spark, but everything I'm saying can be applied to any platform and any crowdfunding for artistic work in general. So feel free to apply it wherever it makes sense for you, but as I said, I hope you would want to check out Seed&Spark. Okay, so we are a platform by filmmakers for filmmakers. Unlike other platforms, we're not just focused on raising funds for one project. We're trying to be a kind of ecosystem for filmmakers to have true independence, retain the rights to their work all throughout the process, and kind of fund through their audience and distribute directly to their audience. And so we are not just a crowdfunding platform, we're also a streaming platform. I'm not going to talk about that today, but if you have questions about our distribution side, I can answer most of them. My job is on the crowdfunding side. But generally speaking, you could use our platform in 3 different ways. Well, more than that, I guess, as a viewer too, if you're an audience and you're supporting projects potentially and also watching content potentially. But as a filmmaker, you can just, crowdfund with us and do whatever you want with your film. You can submit to stream with us to be distributed by us. It's not exclusive. And that's one option. Or ideally, you're kind of doing both. You're funding your project on our crowdfunding side, building an audience, and then coming full circle and distributing to that audience on the streaming side. And again, retaining all rights to your work and making more money per minute watched than any other streaming platform out there. And it's not exclusive. As far as the crowdfunding side goes, though, we offer things like this class for free on our website and something called our Filmmaker Handbook that has a full breakdown of how to really talk to your audience, and a lot of what I'm saying today, but in more depth. That's for free, and we really offer a ton of data about your audience so that you can really figure out the people that want to watch your content and continue making content through them. And we have the highest success rate in the industry, 75%, which is twice any other platform. That's largely because of all our educational stuff, but also because we're the only platform that promises you feedback. So when you submit for review, you would get an email from either me or someone named Jerry, and we would give you a bunch of bullet points on how to strengthen your campaign. But more on that later. So a lot about being an independent filmmaker these days is kind of waiting to be picked, submitting to festivals and hoping to get in, submitting for grants and hoping to get selected, hoping to get meetings with investors to convince them to choose to be part of your project. It's a lot of non-independent activities. And so we believe that the true path to having success as an independent filmmaker is taking control of your career and having a direct connection to your audience. Being able to reach the people who want to see the kind of content you want to make, that's independence. Being able to make that content through them, that's independence. And so that's what this class is about, and that's what we're all about. Okay, so crowdfunding starts now. Really, it is a lot of work. I personally believe that the same way filmmaking, your production is won or lost in the pre-production stage, so is crowdfunding. It really is about the prep that you do long before that clock starts ticking. The 30 days or more when your campaign is happening, very important, but really what makes you successful is all the work you've done to lead up to that moment. So there's a bad habit in crowdfunding where you're just kind of friend and family funding. Don't get me wrong, my very first campaign in 2011, I was totally friend and family funding. You have to start somewhere, but we are about not having to knock on the same doors over and over again, and to not have to wonder if the people are supporting you because they care about the content or because they care about you, because you'll be audience funding. You'll be funding through the people who genuinely want to be part of the thing you're making. Yes, I have people in my life who give to my campaigns over and over again, but those aren't the people I'm hitting up first. I'm hitting up the people who have watched my content, expressed interest in my content, and continue to engage and support me as fans, I guess, as people who want to feel part of the filmmaking process, not just friends and family. So that's really what I'm going to help you try to figure out how you can do that as well. So if there's anything you take away from this class, remember to collect email addresses. I'm going to talk about social media in a second, but email addresses are a direct connection to someone on an individual level, and crowdfunding is all about personalized, individualized outreach. And so, you're at a film festival. I assume most of you have films in the festival. If you have a Q&A, use it as an opportunity to collect email addresses, because the types of people who show up to film festivals and pay for tickets and see independent films are the types of people who will contribute to a crowdfunding campaign. And I'll talk more about that later. But social media is a big part of crowdfunding and just generally marketing of independent film these days anyway. But really, your metric for success is not the followers you get. So I have nearly 4,000 Twitter followers. I'm lucky if even 10% sees what I tweet. We see that there's actually only a 1% conversion rate from social media shares to contributions to a crowdfunding campaign. So what your metric for success should be is the ability to take someone on social media and turn them into someone you have a direct connection to. So these are concentric circles. Everyone in the outer circle, that's everyone in the world you don't know. That's most people in the world. The next circle is your social media reach. That's your ability to reach out into the world and pull people in. And then the next circle is your email list, which we actually see a 30% conversion rate from direct email outreach to contributions to a crowdfunding campaign. And that inner circle is that 20 to 30% that shows up to your screenings, contributes to your campaigns, and really kind of spreads the word about your work and is really supporting you. And your objective is to make that inner circle essentially that outer circle, to make it larger and larger by using social media as a tool. And so, when I'm on Twitter, for instance, I could just be like, hey, check out my work, check out my work, check out my work, but no one's seeing or engaging with that. What I do instead is I look for people that are talking about things that are relevant to what I'm making. I, for instance, do a lot of LGBTQ inclusive content, so I'm always looking for people who are talking about, the political situation currently, but also just generally what kind of content they're craving, what they wish they were seeing on TV and in movies. Just general fandom, because I'm also a fan of a lot of the content, so I just engage. And those are people I create authentic relationships with, and then I have the ability to reach out to them directly, either by collecting their actual email address or just being able to DM them. But the point is, I'm turning sort of a passive follower into an engaged supporter. And that's really what social media is about, and that's your metric for your success, your ability to do that. Okay, so who is your audience? A lot of people want to quote demographics. Well, first of all, people always want to say, everyone's my audience. But these days, when people are watching such different content and are obviously wanting very different content, I don't think any film can really say everyone is my audience. And so you really need to be specific. You really need to think about who is this person that really wants to watch what I'm trying to make. And if you have billions of dollars like Hollywood movies, then you can kind of do the military spray and pray method and hope that you hit the people that you need to reach. But we, as independent filmmakers, we do not have that kind of time, those kind of resources, and definitely not that kind of money. So we need to be really, really specific. And these women all at the top here, are between 24 and 35, that's a demographic, but they have very different lives. They have different careers, they have different hobbies, they have different social circles, and they probably watch very different content. And so, you know, that's not good enough. You need to get very, very specific. So how do you do that? You have to talk to people, for one thing. So I need someone in this room to pitch their project to me. Just like a blog line, you know. Anyone? I'm full of filmmakers. Great, thank you. What's your name?
Chase Kurtz.
Hi.
Hi.
So go ahead, please.
A dysfunctional family decides to get rid of a ghost that has become the head of the household.
That's great. Is that a feature, a short,
Feature.
a series? Okay. What stage are you in with it?
5 years working on the script
Wow.
and about to shoot the teaser trailer.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. So who here would watch that film? Okay. Who here that would watch that film will also answer some questions for me. Okay, can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
The big thing here is to remember we're a room full of filmmakers, so the answers are going to be different probably than the general public. We tend to like more independent content. We tend to still go to the theater in a way that I think most people don't. So you kind of want to have like diverse answers from people. So you want to ask a lot of different types of people. And also you want to make sure that people will be honest with you. So like if I pitched my film to my mom and tried to collect information from her, she would skew my data because like she would watch anything I make regardless of her general interests. So I need to I ask people who are not just my friends who will watch whatever I make, not just my family, but like true strangers, but also people who will be honest with me. So like I'm really bad at small talk. I can only talk about controversial things like politics. And so my husband is not in film, and when he has work parties, I just like pitch at people because that's like a safe thing to do, you know. And I know they'll be honest with me. So that's like my way of getting outside of my very film-focused circle and talking to like real people. Okay, so where do you hang out online? What social media platforms are you on?
Mostly Twitter and Facebook.
Okay. Where do you get your news?
Twitter.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're clicking through on Twitter.
Yeah.
Great. And do you read any blogs?
A couple. I've kind of fallen away from that, but yeah, there were a couple.
Okay.
Not film
Not film.
blogs. Yeah.
Can you think of anything in particular?
What blogs did I read?
For fun?
For fun. There's a couple travel blogs that I read. There's a music blog.
I mean, do like newsletters count?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
totally.
Like Lenny Letter.
Oh, yeah.
And the Skin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's where I get my news too.
Great. Cool. Thank you. And do you belong to any organizations?
What kind of organization?
Any kind of organizations?
No.
Or like clubs? Anything?
I guess not. We have a fellowship. No, we've heard of that organization of people.
Okay.
They're all like artists, collective kind of. But that's it.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of music do you like?
Like new jazz, blues, a little bit of old school, like Sam Cooke era stuff.
And what do you do with your free time offline?
Free time offline is mostly writing, working on films, and going to the theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, how do you watch content?
Always streaming.
Streaming. Okay.
Yeah, never live. Well, I don't have a TV.
Great, but so you don't have a TV at all. You're like streaming on your laptop. Okay, and probably sometimes your phone or just laptop?
No, just laptop.
Just
Yeah.
laptop. Okay, and you do go to the theater though.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of stuff are you seeing? Is it like independent theaters? Is it more mainstream theaters? Is it?
Well, we lived in LA. We went to the Lemley, the independent movie house there a lot.
Okay.
I go to a lot of like live theater, a lot of mostly like off-Broadway plays, and I used to go to the little independent art house in Lincoln Center that got shut down.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So if we had more time, we'd ask more people. But the point is to really start talking to people with like different careers, people of different age groups, different identities, and really try to find different answers but also commonalities. So if you find that most of your audience is telling you that they're like exclusively on Instagram, then you know that when you run a campaign, you would be focused on Instagram social media marketing. But if you find that they're more well-rounded, they're across various platforms, then you would need to have a more robust social media marketing strategy going into your campaign. Similarly, if they tell you that they are clickers on social media, they are the types that look to see what their friends are sharing and the people they follow are sharing, and that's how they get their news, then getting people to share will be a big part of your campaign and the outreach that you do. But if you find that they're more like subscribers, they have their news coming to them, they're not clicking through to it or going to it directly, then getting them to sign up ahead of time for like a newsletter or some kind of email blast service will be really important for your audience. And then also where they're getting their news, like the types of news, the news sources, really important in terms of how they like to be spoken to. Like, for instance, if someone says that they get their news from the New York Times and another person says they get their news from BuzzFeed, there's nothing wrong with either answer, but the BuzzFeed person might be more receptive to an email subject line that says 5 reasons why you should support this campaign. And so it's kind of like really trying to tailor the way you speak about your campaign to the person you're speaking to and what hooks them, what catches their attention. Things you wouldn't expect to be relevant can be music. For instance, we had a campaign that was on our platform called Res. It was about a young man growing up on a reservation. It was a coming-of-age story. And he realized that he did a bunch of questioning of his audience and figuring out his local audience in particular, and found out that he had a big base of interested people that also were fans of hip-hop music. And so he got the rights to a specific song that was from a local artist, an up-and-coming artist. And that video, his pitch video, he put the music in his pitch video, ended up going viral. And that is not something you can plan on. You can't plan to go viral, but you can kind of set up the conditions that would make that possible. And that's sort of from doing the homework that he did. How you spend your free time is a way to reach someone beyond just like the content itself, beyond just pitching your actual plot line to someone. We see the highest conversion rates from face-to-face interaction. So like getting out and being in the world, finding people who are engaging, finding an in that is like, we both like to do this activity, will go a much farther way than just like reaching out to someone online. I should say that all of these questions could absolutely be done online. I definitely did them before my campaign. I asked people on social media if they would watch my film based on the log line, and I asked them questions, but I also very specifically tried to do it in person to get like on the spot, authentic reactions. There was a woman in my class who did her pitch, and then another woman said that she doesn't do anything but garden. Like, she belongs to gardening clubs, she fills out like forums online about gardening, but she's not anywhere else. She's not on social media. And so I was kind of like, well, look, there's a woman who wants to support your project, but you would not reach her unless you joined a gardening club or got involved in these gardening forums. And so it's like, that's a very specific example of, this is a woman who may give you a lot of money, you have no idea. And so you kind of have to like really try to reach people on these very, very, very individualized levels. Back to the news one for a second. When I was first crowdfunding it was my second time crowdfunding, but it was for my first feature. I was making a horror film, and I was a senior in college. I had just been in a analytical horror film course. So I reached out to all the students from that class, and I asked them where they got their news about independent film in general, but very specifically horror film and like indie horror. And through them, I found 35 different sites and blogs that I'd never heard of. And I was able to reach out to those sites and blogs, not just like in a generic press release kind of way, but in a way where I knew why those specific readers liked those specific sites and what they got out of them and expected from them. So I could reach out and say, hey, like, I know this is what your readers care about, here's how that pertains to my film. And so I didn't, I wasn't pandering, I wasn't changing anything about my film, but I was changing sort of the angle in which I spoke about it based on who I knew they wanted to reach or who they were already reaching and what they cared about. And so that was really effective for me. I got a lot of genre fan support during that campaign. And that was also just like, I genuinely love horror movies, and so I was engaging in that community on social media and stuff, yeah.
What were you reaching out to the blogs to ask or request?
To do like an interview with me, or to just like highlight my campaign. It was either before I was going to go live or when I was already live, depending on the timing and what I thought I could get out of them. I know that from my own experience, just getting featured is cool. Maybe it will get you likes, but getting an actual interview will get people much more interested because they can hear from your voice what is it you're bringing that's new to it and why is it compelling. That will have a higher conversion rate. And so I was often trying to sell myself in a way, hey, want to do a Q&A with me? Here's what makes my film different, or here's what your readers like, and here's how I can do that for you. Okay, and then how people, obviously organizations or any kind of clubs they belong to, getting out, as I said, meeting people face to face. And then how people watch content is really important because you really can't change people's behavior, You may feel oh, I want my film to be watched on a big screen, but if your entire audience is I only watch content streaming on my laptop, then that informs your distribution plan. That also just informs your budget because there's no reason why you need to shoot on 4K if everyone who wants to watch a movie is going to be streaming it on a laptop and a cell phone. And so on the other hand, maybe you are I don't have the money for these things, but I'm making a movie and these are the people that want to watch it and they still go to the theater. Then you do need to budget for that. You do need to budget for a theatrical, or at least what that distribution plan would potentially look like if you were to do it yourself or try and get someone. What would those deliverables look like? And so those are really important things to ask before you launch a campaign, long before you launch a campaign, honestly, because it will help you put together your strategy and your budget. Okay, so in terms of social media, a big thing is, as I said, you want to be where your audience is. However, if your audience is on Twitter and you're just more of a visual person, you're not good with words, then find someone on your team who can do that. Because I think that worse than not being on the platform is being really inauthentic on the platform, really bad at it. It's not going to be effective. So make sure that you can be where they are. But as far as your own social media, I do think having a presence in general is really important. I assume everyone in this room is on social media to some degree. But if you're not, get on one and kind of start experimenting with your voice and finding your audience and really just making sure that you're doing what works best on the platform. So as I said, being super visual on Twitter is less effective than doing so on Instagram. Okay. A big part of having a successful campaign is being able to reach beyond your immediate network, especially before you launch the campaign. And so getting partners can be really effective. We've seen people do it with local musicians if they're making a music-oriented film, or clothing brands or restaurants. There's a lot of different things you can do, but the thing that's most popular often tends to be nonprofits and organizations if there's any kind of common mission or message of what you're making. And so the big thing to keep in mind though is they obviously have their own priorities and things that they're trying to do, an audience that they're trying to reach. And so if you reach out just asking for something, they're probably going to ignore you or just be we don't have time for this. So you want to make sure that you're offering. You want to be able to say, hey, here's how what I'm making will help amplify the message you're already putting out there, or reach more people, or whatever it is, you want to have an offer that creates a mutually beneficial relationship. So one of my favorite examples was a filmmaker named Michael DiBiasio. He's a local filmmaker. He was making a film called The Video Blogs. It was about a woman who was struggling with depression, and she started recording video blogs and made a connection with someone who started watching her videos. And Michael reached out to a ton of mental health organizations months before he wanted to launch a campaign, because he'd already he had done his message testing. He knew what marketing language he was going to be using, and he knew that he needed to present that to anyone he reached out to, because they would need to get approval for that, especially nonprofits. They need to get approval for messaging far in advance. So he reached out and he was like, hey, here's my film, here's the message of it, here's how we can help each other. And he ended up getting quite a few organizations, I want to say at least 3 on board, not just during the campaign. They were obviously sharing on social and using their newsletter and really helping to amplify his own social media sharing, but also during when the film was finished, he did a tour of it, and he would screen the film, and then the organization would get to do a talk back with the audience afterwards. And so it was a great way to say like, hey, my film will bring people in the doors, and then you will get to engage with people about your mission and what you're doing. And that was a really effective one that we've seen other people do it as well. If you're doing anything that's cause-driven, it can be a little bit easier to hook people, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it if you're not doing something cause-driven. It's really just like knowing, again, who your audience is and where do these intersections lie with other businesses. Okay, so as for talking to your audience as well, I'm a big believer in offering, not asking there as well, especially not pleading. So I'll tell you a story. In my first campaign, it was in 2011. It was before, crowdfunding had only been around really like seriously for maybe a year, and there were no think pieces about the do's and don'ts of crowdfunding. So I was kind of flying blind and doing my own thing and figuring it out. And if anyone's crowdfunding in this room, they know that the middle of your campaign can be torture. Like the first week is great, you've got all this momentum. If you've done your homework, if you've done it right, you've got this great momentum, and you're just like soaring the first week. And then the second to third week, you just kind of halt, and you're like at a standstill, and it can be very painful. And if you take everything I'm about to say later, like, and apply it to your own campaign, you will have still like momentum that will take you to a successful finish. But the middle can be torture, and I didn't have like new and exciting things to put out during the middle. So I started experimenting with my language, and I started saying things like, don't buy that cup of coffee this morning, give to my campaign instead. Or don't go out for drinks tonight, give to my campaign instead. And in theory, it sounds like that's good. Like they're gonna spend $5 here, so why not spend it over here? But it's not good. Because A, it shames people for how they like to spend their money, which is not something you want to do when you're asking for money. And B, it implies that someone has to sacrifice something in order to be part of making your movie, and that's also not a tone you want to set. And I feel like I just came off as like desperate and not like I felt like I was going to succeed, so why else would anyone feel like that? And once I realized that that wasn't effective, I shifted gears and I started saying things like, join in making something, become part of this creative endeavor. I started saying things about like teamwork and creativity and making something and making something from nothing, and it was all about like joining, and that's how I found success. And I realized that that's the tone you want to set. And so I see people to this day, 7 years later, posting that like $4 coffee thing all the time, and I will send them a private message and say, stop it, you're hurting yourself. No one feels motivated to contribute. If anyone is contributing based on this, it's because they feel bad, not because they're gonna like join you for the next one. And so really think about the offer. I think that I'm really against the word donate in crowdfunding because especially in our current political times, it can be very hard to say like donate to my project when there are so many things to donate to. And my response is like, yeah, donate to all of those things. I am also donating to all of those things. Contribute to me and my project. Contribute towards me creating something with me. And so it's like flipping your mindset and not believing that you're asking for a handout, but truly believing that you are offering something, because you're offering an end product that they will get to consume and enjoy, hopefully, and a unique experience that they can only get through you and your project. You're making them feel part of making it, and that's what you should be delivering on. I'll talk about that more later, but the point is to make sure that you offer. And then on social media and just in general, you want to make sure that you are being authentic. I think that people generally feel like they have to give away all of who they are in order to be on social media. I believe that it's really just like, okay, who are you trying to reach, and who are you, and where does that intersection happen? And it used to be that you could just like share on social media and get attention. That's not the case anymore. It's actually, we see a 9-to-1 ratio. For every one self-promotional post you want to do on social media, you have to do 9 that are not self-promotional. But I believe that they can be like sneakily self-promotional in that you can be like building the worlds that exist around what you're making, whether that's like sharing of exciting updates about the project, but also as I said, like I do a lot of LGBTQ inclusive content, so I'm of course always sharing articles, news articles related to like what's going on in the world, and that is obviously engaging the people who I think would take an interest in what I'm making. And I share other content that I'm genuinely a fan of, because I think that when people see that, you know, they want to feel like they know you and they're supporting your voice, and part of that is like your taste as a consumer as well, and that's how you can bond with someone. So like I'm sharing someone else's content, someone who I genuinely am a fan of, but I'm also maybe hooking their audience, and their audience maybe would take an interest in what I'm making because there are similarities in terms of like themes or genre or tone or whatever it is. And also just like altruism is really important. I'm a big believer in kind of not asking someone to do what you haven't done yourself. So like if you've never contributed to a crowdfunding campaign, go home today and contribute to a campaign. That's like a rule of mine when people reach out to me. If they're like strangers asking me to contribute to a campaign, I check out their profile to see if they've given to any before. And I think that just like, it's cool to do that, because like you're creating something with someone, and you're probably a fan of, you know, someone's work out there that would be crowdfunding. And I think that, like, yeah, you can always cross-promote with other filmmakers. I've had a lot of success with that, but the point is that we're trying to build a culture of plenty. We're trying to, you know, create sustainability for independent film in general, and so that means we support each other. And our platform is actually designed for that as well. I don't know if that's next slide. No, it's not. Okay. So momentum. Momentum is really important in crowdfunding. We've seen that 90% of campaigns that succeed reach 30% in the first week. And so for that reason, we really push you to kind of try to secure that 30% before you go live. Reach out to your core supporters and say like, hey, I'm going live at this date and this time. Can I count on you? However you would typically talk to someone, whoever they are, you kind of want to tailor it to that. But the point is to try and secure the money ahead of time, so that you have that, like, that 30% secured. In my last campaign, I had 30% secured by the third day. And that we have seen is because 30% is like the sweet spot where strangers feel comfortable contributing. And so you want to get there as soon as possible. I know that like if someone goes to your page and it's like 2 weeks in and you're only at 10%, they're not going to feel compelled to get involved, because they're like, wow, like, no one else is jumping on this bandwagon, why should I? For that reason, I'm not going to like crap on other platforms, but I should say that for this reason I'm very against flexible funding, because I know that I have been burned by flexible funding campaigns where they take my money, they only get 10% of their money, and they never make the film, but they kept my money. And so like I'm very hesitant to be an early contributor to a flexible campaign. I typically won't contribute until maybe like 60% has been raised, and that's usually not until like week 3. And so I really like all or nothing or our model where there's safety and accountability built in. So Kickstarter is all or nothing. Most other platforms are flexible. We are actually an 80% threshold. You have to get to 80% of your goal in order to receive your money, because we believe that any truly resourceful filmmaker can make the film they've promised on 80%, but anything less than that is really sacrificing something they promised their audience. And so, you know, in order for this to be sustainable for you, in order for you to be able to come back again and again, you have to have trust with your audience. And really the ability for me, you know, by my 4th campaign to hit 30% in 3 days is largely based on people feeling like, okay, you know, I know she delivers because she makes the film every time, but also this platform has that kind of built into it where like she won't get to take my money unless she raises enough that will actually accomplish the film. And so, yeah. Okay. So how much? This is a big one. People always think that there's maybe a magic number. There is not. We always recommend that you really ask for what you need, not necessarily what you think you can get or what you want. For this reason, we built something that's called our wish list. It's like a wedding registry. It makes you itemize your budget, and it creates sort of transparency with the audience so they understand where their money is going, and it also allows them to choose where their money goes. So like they could just click, you know, the contribute button and just give you $25, $50, or they can say like, hey, you know, I'm friends with the actors. I'm gonna give my $25 to the actor pay, because that like creates a personalization. Or, you know, my last feature that I crowdfunded is called About a Donkey. There is a donkey in it, and one of the items on my wish list was the care of to care for the donkeys, and everyone wanted to get to that, which I thought was cool. But it shows there's a level of like, where do I want to put my money? Metaphorically, I want to put it towards caring for donkeys. So another thing they can do actually is make loans. So we are a platform, as I said just a little while ago, we want artists to be able to support other artists, and so you can make a loan towards an item on the wish list, and the value of that will equal in the goal raised. For instance, I very often loan out my lighting kit to my friends if they crowdfund on Seed&Spark. So if they have a wish list item that's like they're going to rent a lighting kit for X amount of days, that'll equal X amount of dollars, I can loan it to them, send them a message and say, hey, like, what days do you need it? You can borrow it then, and then they approve it, and then that, like, let's say $250 now is in their goal. And so that's a really cool way to like get community support that is more than just cash. I have gotten like locations for free that way. I have gotten people to loan me their car through my campaign. I have gotten donations of food from like people who are caterers in that way. And so it's really cool. But all that said, the main thing is to really think about your film as if you're starting a small business. What is the entire life cycle of the film? Not just what will it take to get it made, what do you really need to raise to see it all the way through? And then once you have that number, if you find that, you know, realistically your budget, your overall goal is too high for where you're starting at with your network, then maybe you can you want to break it up into stages. And our platform is built for that. So very quickly, people can do two things on our platform. They can either sign up and make a contribution and to your campaign, or they can just follow it, which is free to do. They don't have the money right now, but they want to receive your updates, so they follow it. And we try to incentivize you to build followers, regardless of whether or not they're contributors, because we want you to build an audience. And so we have stuff in place called our Filmmaker Rewards, which are things that we've gotten from our partners. We have like festival waivers. There's discounts to post-production services. There's some really cool stuff, and it's valued over $9,000. I can talk more about that later. But the point is, if you hit certain milestones, like when you get to 250 followers, you get X amount of rewards. When you get to 500 followers, you get like our biggest pool of rewards. That's with a successful campaign. That is a big component of staged funding. So you launch a campaign, and it's for pre-production. So it's only for a small amount of money for you to get the ball rolling and to start building an audience. Then 6 months later, you're ready to go into production. So you launch another campaign, but you come back to the existing campaign page and you just launch a new wish list, and you keep the followers that you raised from that first campaign, and also any followers you've raised in the past 6 months. So all these people who have been paying attention to your updates and paying attention to the project but never contributed before now get notified when you launch a new campaign on the same page. And so it not only sort of incentivizes them to like click through and make a contribution, it's also boosting your follower count for your next campaign. So like if you don't hit 500 in your first campaign, you can hit it at any point through your next stages. And we've seen people raise, 3 stages. They do like a pre-production, production, post. Sometimes they'll do like 6. You can do distribution, festivals, delivering on incentives, which we'll talk about in a second. But our platform is very flexible in that way that you can really kind of make it work for whatever your needs are. Sorry. It's okay. Okay, so incentives. Most platforms like to try to get you to promise swag type things like t-shirts and mugs and posters. I don't know, like most adults don't put posters on their walls. I don't know why people always want to offer posters. I know, like I put my film posters on my walls, but I have not put other movie posters on my walls since high school. And so like you should definitely poll your audience and see if they want the swag type stuff. Odds are they don't. Maybe if you're doing like a documentary about bands or something, but generally speaking they don't. So we actually think that you should not be spending money on incentives and instead utilizing things that you are doing anyway, specifically for your EPK. For instance, so part of crowdfunding is that you are offering people the experience of making something. And so you want to make sure you deliver on that. That's what you're offering them. And we as filmmakers know that being on set is a lot of sitting around and like waiting on lighting and watching the same thing over and over again. But people who don't work in film don't know that. They think it's exciting, they think it's glamorous, they think it'd be really cool to be on set and like watch the actors act and get to maybe yell action and get to hear you yell action and get to say cut and like get to eat a meal with the cast and crew. And so higher up stuff should absolutely be visits to set, getting to come to the wrap party, getting to come to the premiere and the premiere party, getting to eat a meal with the cast and crew. When I don't crowdfund, I'm always begging friends and family to be extras in my party scenes and stuff. When I crowdfund, it is $50 to be an extra. So like that's the difference. It's like you set a value and people embrace that, and like that now is the standard. And so if you create any kind of exclusivity around it, then that is what people are paying for. So that's the higher budgeted stuff. At the lower level, you should definitely give people like access to what they funded to watch it, whether it is like a digital download or just like a streaming link, however you're comfortable, whatever your distribution plans are. But usually that's like somewhere between $25 and $50 if it's a feature, maybe less if it's a short or a series. But the most common contribution is $25, followed by, depending on the affluency of your specific audience, which you would figure out through your questioning and stuff, it's the second most common is either 10 or 50. Generally speaking though, it tends to be 10. So $25 is the most common, followed by $10. You're going to see hundreds of people giving you that amount. You do not want to be spending money on that, nor can you like have 100 people visit your set. So we always say that those incentives should be personal, shareable, visual, and indirectly market the campaign. So our favorite example of that is this photo on the side here of me and Amelia Earhart. It is by a filmmaker named Sean Mannion. He's a local filmmaker. He's also a friend of mine. He was crowdfunding for a short called Time Signature. It was about a woman who was going to the concert of her favorite band and finds out that the drummer traveled back in time to tell her something. And so his tagline was, if you could go anywhere in time, where could you go? So at $25, he was offering to Photoshop you into a time period of your choosing. And I am not like a huge Amelia Earhart fan, but he knew I would want to meet a woman in history. I told him to surprise me. That was the thing. Because like I didn't actually give him any money. I loaned him my lighting kit. He asked me where I wanted to go, and I was like, surprise me. And so we photoshopped this photo of me and Amelia Earhart. And it's like, it looks really cool and it's just really fun and silly. And of course I shared it all over the place. And this incentive was super popular with people. One of my favorites was like a mutual friend of ours asked to go to the moon, and he took a photo of her riding a camel in the desert and put it on the moon. And it was just like all very silly, and people were just refreshing the campaign page waiting to see the next one that would come out. And it really perfectly tied into like the themes of what he was making. It utilized a skill he happened to be very fast and very good with. And it was super, super personalized and definitely shareable. There were people who were contributing him $25 to his campaign just to get their own photo. And so that was like a great example of this. A lot of people try to replicate it, and it's like either doesn't tie in perfectly to the themes, or they're not as good and fast with Photoshop, and it like isn't quite as effective. So you want to like utilize what skills you have. For one of my campaigns, my co-producer, she's also a songwriter, so like we did personalized thank you jingles because there was like a music element to our film. In my last campaign, I was just downloading photos of donkeys from the internet and adding speech bubbles and writing funny things and putting the URL at the bottom. And that was really effective because like photos of animals tend to do well on the internet, and people were just like, what are all these donkeys? But the point is to just be able, you want to put out something that ties into what you're making, and you can tag the people in to thank them, and their friends and family will take notice, and it's like eye-catching and interesting. And really that you like thank people. A lot of people want to brag, but they don't want to go online and be like, I'm so awesome, I just did this thing. They want you to go online and say, so-and-so is so awesome, they just did this wonderful thing, check out blah, 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 like whatever photo of them, as a thank you for what they did. And so really like you want to think about your own kind of creative way of doing that. Okay, pitch videos are really important in crowdfunding. They are the #1 thing that people will engage with in your campaign. for some reason, filmmakers forget everything they learned in film school when they make a pitch video, and I'm guilty of this with my very first campaign. Just sitting in front of my laptop saying like, "Hi, I'm Christina, and I'm gonna make a film, and it's gonna be really great, and please help me." And that's not compelling. I understand that we think and want to believe that people will understand that we don't have any money yet, and so like we can't make this flashy pitch video. But they do not understand that. They assume the care and quality of that pitch video is reflective of the care and quality of the end product. And so you need to make something that really sets the tone of what you're making and shows up your aesthetic. That does not have to mean a lot of money. We get beautiful images with our cell phones these days. And like, just have good sound. That's a huge thing. People do not want to strain to hear you ask them for money. So if you're going to shoot outside, make sure you have the sound gear to accommodate that. But a big thing is remembering that you're not friend and family funding. So your face is not going to hook them alone. You need to set the tone of whatever you're making. So if you're making a comedy, you should try and make them laugh. If you're making a horror film, you should try and scare them. But statistically speaking, you have 15 seconds to hook them with the tone of whatever it is. And I don't have Wi-Fi and sound in this room, otherwise I would show you an example of one of my favorites. But if you gave me your email, in the email we send you, we have a list of some of our favorites. But the point is, you can use past work footage if it's similar in tone. You can shoot some test footage. There was a woman who I'm working with. A big part of my job at Seed&Spark is to give you feedback on your pitch video directly. And there was a woman who submitted, and it was just her talking, and she said she didn't have any money to shoot any test footage, and she was making a drama about a woman who's struggling with breast cancer. And I was like, you could just shoot some interesting footage with your phone of a woman looking in the mirror and observing her figure, and if you shoot it in an interesting way, and if she has an expressive face, then that's super interesting, I think. Eye-catching way more than you just sitting and talking to the camera. And so yeah, you've got 15 to 20 seconds to do that, and then you actually do have to pitch the project. We find that people do want to see the person who's behind it. They do feel more connected to something when they see the person and when they hear from them. And so you have about 90 seconds to answer who, what, and why. Who are you and the creative team, not just you, but the team you're asking them to join. What, very concisely, what is it? Because story is everything. And then why. Why does it matter? The why is what makes someone go from wanting to watch it to wanting to be part of it. So why does it matter? Why now? Why your voice for it? What are you offering them that they're not getting elsewhere? And you have 90 seconds to do that, because we find that after 2 minutes people stop watching pitch videos. They've made up their minds. So you can keep talking, but they're not going to keep listening. So you want to make sure that you have your call to action by or at the 2 minute mark. And then I get a lot of filmmakers saying but I'm not charismatic, I'm terrible on camera. And it doesn't have to just be you. It could be hi, I'm so-and-so, please join me in making this film, blah, blah, blah. Let my actors tell you more about it. And the actors get on camera and be super charismatic and do the pitch beyond that. And so it's there's flexibility, but you do need to be in it to some degree. We, as I said earlier, are the only platform that promises you feedback. A big part of it is making sure you have time to make adjustments. So if you are planning to crowdfund anytime soon, really, I recommend that you submit 2 weeks before you want to launch so that you can incorporate any feedback we may have. But people who take this class tend to come in stronger and go live a lot sooner. But still, I think getting early approval will allow you to start marketing at a scheduled date and time for your campaign. If all of this sounds like a ton of work, it is. We all have lives. We have work, we have family, we have school, we have things going on, and it is kind of impossible for one person to do the other. And so you really want to find a team of people. I personally believe, even if it's just you and one other person, it depends on your goal size. I've always crowdfunded usually with just one other main person, but then I have other collaborators doing bits here and there. But there should be more than you doing outreach. I'm a believer that anyone who gets an above the line credit should participate in outreach, because building an audience benefits everyone, and producing nowadays is it's finding the money, but it's also building the audience, it's finding the audience. And so this does both of those things. So they should be offering up their email list and participating. But if you're at you're starting out, you're just starting out and you don't have like a producer on board yet, maybe it's like just your friends who are willing to help out. But the point is you need a team of people who have skills that you don't. I am like the face of my videos. I am doing a lot of the outreach. I'm doing a lot of the strategy, but I am not editing my own pitch video. I am not creating the graphics because that's not my skill set. And so like I have collaborators that do that, and different like work schedules. So you know, if you work a 9 to 5, you want to have someone who can be managing the campaign during those hours. The point is that the same way filmmaking is collaborative, so is crowdfunding. Okay, then during the campaign, you want to make sure that you have a schedule, the same way that you want to be prepared on set, but also be flexible should things go wrong, as things tend to. You also want to have that for a campaign. And that's really important because you want to be able to check how things are doing. You want to say like, last Tuesday, you know, we got a ton of traffic and these contributions, but this Tuesday, we're not getting any of that. What were we doing differently? Let me check my schedule. Let me see like what was planned for that day. What kind of press did we get that day? Or who contributed that day and shared it? You want to be able to see what's working and make adjustments. And the only way to do that is to really track everything. And during the campaign, direct outreach is really important. I had one woman tell me that she sent out 800 emails and didn't get any contributions in her last campaign, and I asked her if she sent one email to 800 people or if she actually sent 800 emails, and she said she sent one email to 800 people. And that is not direct outreach, that is just like mass emailing. That's not a direct why will you specifically care about this project? So something I do, like I have a very, very organized email list where I keep track of like how I met someone, and maybe it was one of my film screenings, or maybe it was while teaching, or maybe it was at just a festival I was going to, but I collected their business card. I write down like where I met them and if we talked about anything significant, so that when I'm launching a campaign, maybe months, even years later, I can say like, hey, so-and-so, it was so lovely meeting you at, or so great to talk to you about, or I hope you've been well since. Yeah.
How are you keeping track of that? Excel spreadsheet or what?
Yeah, Google Docs. I also have MailChimp like for my newsletter where I categorize everyone. But I tend to use Google Docs because then I like take it into a new spreadsheet, and then I break those people up into like themes of my film. So it's like my first feature was a horror film, my second feature is a comedy, and so they're different. But I can say like, okay, this person came to the screening of my first feature, which is a horror film, so I know they like horror movies, but maybe I know these other things about them, and that's something I can talk to them about with my new film. And so like I try to get specific, and even if like the template I'm using is generally the same that I'm sending everyone, I make sure I personalize, because that goes a long way. I actually have a higher conversion rate than the average, about 40%, because I get like super, super personalized in my outreach, and I find it really is effective. Because people want to feel like they're not just being sold to, like that you're actually speaking to them, and you know something about them, and that you genuinely think that they'll be interested in this. Okay, updates are really important too, because it can get exhausting for you and everyone involved if you're just sharing the campaign for 30 days or more straight. Your audience wants to support you, and if they've already contributed, they probably want to like help, but they don't want to just keep sharing the campaign. So you want to give them exciting things to share. That's like, hey, you know, I supported this project, and they just attached their lead actor, and like they share this update, and that update links to the campaign. You know, and so I always have like material to go out, visual material that's like, you know, announcements about casting, photos of our location scouts, you know, behind the scenes videos, anything that is visual and shareable and is exciting, sounds like progress, shows progress, and makes the people who contributed feel included. And then social media, you want to kind of entice people towards the campaign. So like if you have a Meet the Cast video that you just put out and it's 90 seconds, maybe you put the first 20 seconds on social media and say, want to see the rest, check out our campaign. But social media should be a way to entice people inward and kind of be a reminder for people. We've seen that statistically, someone has to see something 3 times before they take an action. And so you want to like have regular updates coming out of the campaign that will remind people to take an action and make a contribution. In my updates, I would always do a tweet of the day. You can't really see this on the side, but it's a screenshot of people saying the same thing within like 10 seconds of me sending an update once. So I would always, people want to share, but they don't always want to think about how to say it. Like, people are self-conscious, so they're like, is this the right wording? Should I say it this way? You don't want to like scare them away and kind of make them back out of sharing. You want to make it super easy. So you want to just like copy and paste. I will say, here's the tweet of the day, copy and paste into Twitter. And then people would do it because I had already like checked to make sure it fit. This was before they upped their character count, but you want to make sure that like it'll fit and everything. And then social media is a great tool when you think about like what's trending. So this is a photo of me and my best friend and also co-producer at Pride in 2014. We were crowdfunding at the time. We planned to go to Pride anyway, but we went to Pride like wearing shirts about our campaign, and we weren't like bothering people at Pride. We weren't trying to get them to make contributions while they should have been celebrating, but we were talking to people and like recording videos to share on social media and to make an update for our audience. But most specifically, we were sharing photos of ourselves at Pride and using hashtag NYC Pride, which was trending at the time. So we got a lot of traffic click-throughs because of that. And so I always recommend people to like be aware of the world that they're in beyond just their campaign and like the movie they're trying to make. Or like, what's going on in the world right now? What will be trending this month? There was a campaign for about superhero villains. It was like their side of the story as a web series, and I told the filmmaker that he definitely needed to crowdfund during Comic-Con and like go and have photos and use that hashtag, and that was really effective for him. But you want to look for like live events. You can always throw your own live events, but in New York City, like there's always something going on. Matching contributions are really great if you know someone's going to give you a lot of money, whatever you consider to be a lot of money, whether that's like $5,000, $1,000, $250, $500, whatever is a lot to you. Don't just let them give you that money. Ask them to do a matching funds campaign. So like for this week only, up to $1,000, your contribution will get double the incentive thanks to this matching donor. And so like that's something you can utilize. Also like short-term incentives are really great motivational things. One of my favorites was a campaign that did a contest where he knew that he had audiences in 3 cities, very big audiences in 3 cities. So we did something called the Funder Games. It was like when the second Hunger Games was coming out. And he had people compete to see which city could bring in the most contributions during the middle of his campaign. And the winner would get the premiere screening. And so that was really effective. And he's like one of the only campaigns that I've seen that didn't just like hit a wall in the middle, but just like kept rising at a nice pace because he was doing this contest. But that was like very much relying on him knowing he had this big audience reach in these cities to begin with. Okay, so during the campaign, as I said, you want to make sure that you're communicating, you're checking your schedule, you're reviewing your messaging, seeing what's working. You really want to make sure that you are seeing what is like driving the most traffic, what is getting clicked on the most. Our dashboard is decked out to kind of show you where your top traffic sources are and like how you're doing each week and generally like where you can improve, and so you want to be able to interpret that. And then during the campaign, you want to ask people who contributed what made them contribute. So you want to replicate that. You want to be able to say like, if you got a certain amount of press that led to their contribution, maybe you want to get featured there again. If they like sign up for a specific friend, maybe that you want to get that friend to share again, but the point is you want to know what worked. And then you want to also find out what the people who didn't contribute, you want to ask them. So I'll tell you, on average, only 50% of a team's full network will contribute. That means 70% of a team's network is not going to. That can be very disappointing. I have definitely experienced wanting to just like write off people and be like, I hate them now, we're not friends anymore. But you don't want to do that because there are a variety of reasons why people don't contribute. And so you want to follow up with them because you may find that like they just forgot, they're not living in the bubble that you are where nothing matters but making your goal, and so you need to remind them. Maybe they are just like going through a rough time right now and like you need to be there for them as a friend and not just someone like soliciting money from them. But at the end of that, they will like be in a better mindset to contribute. Maybe they're just like, they don't have the money right now and they were too ashamed to respond to you, and that's okay. You can give them other actions like following the campaign, which is free, sharing the campaign, which is free, or making a contribution, getting someone else to make a contribution on their behalf, which is free for them. And then worst case, like absolute worst case scenario, they may just say like, I'm just not that into it. It's not my thing. Which may be hurtful to hear, but it actually will be very helpful because you can say, okay, that person is not my audience. How can I avoid spending money, time, and resources on more people like that? And so you really want to kind of talk to people and get that information. And honestly, some people may ignore you. Some people might not respond, and that's just that. You know, you don't know what's going on with people. But I have experienced, you know, most people are really eager to engage, and even if they don't have the money to contribute, or even if they don't necessarily get the crowdfunding thing, they're very much like interested in engaging with you and like want to watch it eventually. And so you want to keep those people in your good graces. Like you don't want to write people off. Okay, during a campaign, you want to definitely keep thanking people because you can't thank people enough. You want to look for other filmmakers to support and like cross promote with. You want to keep doing outreach and message testing. I've found that the momentum of a campaign and like the numbers are a great way to then start doing more outreach. Like if you reach out to a partner before your campaign and they ignored you, but now you have like a nearly successful campaign and like 500 people who have supported you, that's a great thing to take to that same partner and say, hey look, there's like real people who care about this thing, maybe you want to partner now. And I've seen that be successful. So like don't be afraid to try new things. Everything that you're doing for a campaign will eventually benefit the marketing of the film itself or the series or whatever it is that you're making. So after a campaign, you want to take a break because it will be exhausting, like truly. And then you want to make sure that you deliver on everything you've promised your audience because that is key. That is how we have sustainability. I'll tell you a quick story. There's a filmmaker, not a filmmaker, a man, very much not a filmmaker, just a film fan, who gave $100 to my campaign on Kickstarter for my second feature. And he was a total stranger, like I didn't know him at all, but I looked at his profile and realized that he supported a lot of film projects. So I thanked him personally and online and did all of this stuff. And then I didn't really talk to him again because he was a stranger. But I had been sending updates during the entire post-production and festival run of my feature film. I shot my first feature in Massachusetts in January in -degree weather. It was absolutely insane. I will never do it again. But it was quite an experience. And what I had promised people was feeling like they were part of that experience. So I had like a ton of behind the scenes videos. I had interviewed the cast and crew about what it was like to shoot in those conditions. I blogged about what I learned making my first feature and like mistakes that I felt I made and things I would do differently. And I just like shared and was very candid. And I was sending updates like pretty regularly. Every time we hit a milestone, when we had like, you know, our color grading was done, I would send a before and after. When our sound mix was done, I sent a before and after. Every festival we went to, I sent like a little recap with photos. I was trying to, you know, really engage people. So anyway, 2 years later, I was crowdfunding on Seed&Spark for new projects. And I reached out to this guy again, had not spoken to him in 2 years, and I said, hey, you know, thanks again for contributing to my feature. I hope you enjoyed it, because at that point he had gotten his copy. And I asked him if he would be interested in supporting my new projects. I tried to like find some kind of in, even though I didn't know very much about him other than his general interest in supporting campaigns. And he replied immediately and said, Christina, it's so lovely to hear from you. I have to say I've given to so many campaigns where the film never got made, or I never heard from the filmmakers again, or they only reached back out when they wanted us to like share the link. They never really make me feel part of it, and you did. He was like, I really love watching you grow as a filmmaker and getting to feel part of making your movie. So he asked what made Seed&Spark different, and I told him, and then he asked what on my wish list was most important to me. And I said paying my cast and crew because I did not pay everyone last time and I was determined to pay everyone this time. And within 5 minutes of saying that, he fulfilled the remaining balance, which was $1,000. So we went from like a total stranger who gave me $100 to still basically a stranger who gave me $1,000 simply because I had just like blogged about making a movie. And so, while it does feel a lot like you're just, you know, knocking on all these doors for $5 here and $25 here and $10 here, you never know like who it really matters to and who that person is that's going to give you a lot of money. And so doing all this, making sure you deliver is really important because some people do really, like they're giving really to be part of making it, you know? And so it's really important. That said, you really want to think about rollover because you're going to be doing this again and again if you're, you know, planning to have a truly independent career. And so, like, as I said earlier, every Q&A should never just be like this one moment when they met the filmmaker behind the film. It should be like, no, I met Christina Raia and now I get her newsletter every month. So you want to make sure that you collect email addresses, because I have had serious success like reaching out to people who paid to see my first feature, very different film at one festival, and then, you know, now I crowdfunded in 2017. So like 4 years later, reaching out to them saying, hey, you know, you watched my first feature, I'm just making my second one, do you want to join me in making it? Like, I've had success doing that because I make sure that I engage people and that I turn them into supporters of me and my voice and my vision as a whole, not just one project. And that is like something, as artists and filmmakers in particular who tend to be behind the camera, that's something you have to embrace, is that like we are the brand. Our voice is what is hooking people. What is your mission as an artist? That's what you're trying to hook people on. And that this project has a life cycle that will end, but that should not be the end of your engagement with that audience. You should roll them over into the next one. And that's pretty much it. As I said, we are a distribution platform. You can stream with us. We're on Apple TV and Roku, and we also have like a ton of data transparency on that side as well. And we have some rallies coming up. We do crowdfunding rallies where we partner with other entities to offer grand prizes on top of your crowdfunding money. So like right now we just finished the call for submissions for something called Communal Nightmares, which is partnered with The Orchard and 3311, where we're looking for genre features that tackle social issues. And people will run campaigns as they normally would. They raise their money, they build their audience, but they're also competing for a $25,000 grand prize and potential executive producership from those two companies. We did it last year with the Duplass brothers, and we're doing it again this year with something called our Hometown Heroes Rally, which is for narrative features. Well, last year was just for narrative features. This year it's for narratives and documentaries, but they have to be features that are shot in your hometown or like where you consider home. And that's last year it was a $25,000 prize. This year it's a $50,000 prize, and they come on board as executive producers. They picked 2 winners last year. And it's really cool, actually. Like, we did a Facebook Live with one of the winners, and she said the Duplass brothers have been really like engaged and hands-on in helping like revise the script and get it like off the ground. And so it's a really great opportunity. And we have other ones coming up as well, but that's like the big one that we're gonna have a call for submissions in July. But otherwise, if you have any questions, I'm here. You can shoot me an email if anything occurs to you later. I'm always happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I don't know if any of you are planning to crowdfund like anytime soon. I'd also am happy to like stick around for a bit and talk to you. Otherwise, that's it. I'd actually